Sefer HaMitzvos daily study. Today we're doing day 315, and it's very good to be able to get this in before Shabbos, which is coming very soon. Today we are learning 5 mitzvahs, all related to capital punishment. We talked about 2 other forms of capital punishment yesterday, or execution. And the death penalty, how that's enacted in a Torah situation, which is not done currently at all. It's only done when there's a Sanhedrin, in the land of Israel, and that the land of Israel is run by not a secular state as it is now, but as a religious state following the laws of the Bible. These would be done. So here's positive commandment 226, execution by beheading. This comes from Exodus 21:20. So transgressors of certain sins are executed via decapitation. And positive commandment 227, execution by strangulation. He shall be put to death, Exodus 21:16. Transgressors of certain sins are executed by strangulation. So those are the last 2 types of capital punishment. Yesterday we talked about the burning and what was the other one? See if I can back it up here real quick. Stoning. And so those are the 4 types of capital punishment. What did you see missing there? Did you see crucifixion in there at all? Absolutely not. Crucifixion is not a Jewish or a Torah punishment whatsoever. It's a Roman punishment. We also see it in Persia, I believe, and I think Persia might have actually originated the act of crucifixion, and the Romans, being a little sadistic, they always loved to find new and interesting ways to execute people. They didn't limit themselves to just 4 types of execution. The Romans loved finding new ways to do it. And so they stole, from how I understand it, from Persia, they stole the idea of hanging a person on a tree, or on a execution stake or a cross. So crucifixion was a Roman thing. If you notice in the Gospels, Jesus is hung by the Romans, not by the Jews, on a cross. So just want to point out that is not a biblical form of punishment. And in fact, many, many, many Jews were crucified by the Romans, sadly, throughout the generations. In fact, when Jesus was a young boy and he was going up to to go to the temple, as we read in the Gospels, we can infer that he would have been, and following the writings of Josephus, etc., there would have been people who were Roman criminals, or Jews who were criminals in the eyes of Rome, that would be hanging on crosses, being displayed in order to keep all the people who were coming up for the pilgrimage festivals, to keep them in line, and not have any sort of uprising, which you could think, or at least as a Roman, you might be afraid that the Jewish people would start a big riot, and try to overthrow the oppressor of Rome. So they hung. This is historically accurate that they would hang Jews on trees on crosses from all along the roads to Jerusalem, and so people would see this, and it is a big shame that happened. But imagine Jesus going up to the temple when he was a young boy and seeing that sight, or having his parents shield his eyes from seeing that. I just we're imagining here, but the idea that he's that this was a rare occurrence is absolutely false. There was actually a time when there were no trees left to make crosses, because there were so many crosses placed around the walls of Jerusalem by the Romans, and they were crucifying Torah scholars, etc. Very sad time in Jewish history. But there is a commandment. I say all that as a preface to positive commandment 230, and you might misinterpret this. This comes from Deuteronomy 21:22. It says, "You shall hang him on a tree or on a pole, or on an eitz." Eitz can be tree, pole, wood, etc. And so what this means is that when a criminal, a Jewish criminal, executed for a Jewish crime, was executed by one of the other four types of punishment, then they would hang the corpse on the corpse, not a living person, of certain criminals, not all criminals that were executed by the courts, and they would hang them up, and it was to dissuade people from doing a similar act. But if you read the Talmud, it says that if there was a Sanhedrin that would kill someone via execution once in a generation, or even somewhere around there, but they do say once in a generation, if there was such a situation, they considered that a bloody Sanhedrin, a Sanhedrin that was, that was not a good situation if there was even one. So the idea is that this wouldn't happen often. Positive commandment 231, burying the dead. So now the person who has been executed, or executed and put on the stake, or however they were displayed, that they had to be buried on the same day. So this applies actually to all dead, any corpse. Every Jewish deceased must be buried on the day of passing, if possible. This is why a person who died with no one to care for their interment, is called a mitzvah, a mitzvah corpse, because it's a mitzvah for everyone to ensure that this person is buried. So they're guarded during that that period, that day that they are waiting interment. They're never left alone, and they're washed and clothed in linen for burial, and wrapped. And that's the way things are done today in Jewish tradition, and also buried in a simple pine box. Everybody's buried in a simple pine box. It's a very beautiful thing, because it's simplistic. The rich person is buried, or supposed to be buried, in the same way as the poor person. All right. Negative commandment 66. And again, this is regarding the corpse that has been displayed after execution. The commandment is not to leave that corpse hanging overnight. The Romans would leave someone on a cross for, as long as it took for them to die, and then leave you up there, um, you know, to uh, just to display you and to shame you, and they didn't care about taking you down on the same night. Though actually in the Gospels, we do see them taking down his body on the same day and the same night to bury him on the same night, following all of these mitzvahs. And it also says that they didn't even have time to put incense and everything on him, spices on him to prepare for the burial. They were going to do that later because the Sabbath was coming upon them, and it says in the Gospels that they rested according to the commandment. Very interesting to see all these mitzvahs that are from the Torah being explicitly referenced in the Gospels. So this comes from Deuteronomy 21:23. His body shall not remain all night upon the tree. It's forbidden to leave a corpse that was hung by the courts hanging overnight. This is because only two offenses are punishable by hanging after execution: idolatry and blasphemers. So if someone was an idolater or a blasphemer, they would be the ones that were displayed afterward. As such, someone seeing the hanging corpse might contemplate the reason why the individual was hanged, and will come to blaspheme God in his thoughts. This prohibition also includes leaving any Jewish corpse unburied overnight, unless the delay in the interment is in honor of the deceased, in order to allow time for relatives to arrive for the funeral, or if the body needed to be transported, or whatever. The burial is done at the first available opportunity, which might be after a holiday or whatever. So in any case, that is everything for today. Tomorrow, with God's help, we'll be back after Shabbos, though it might be that I will record on Sunday. 3 more commandments, and their commandments regarding justice. All right, thank you so much for joining me. Have a great night. Good Shabbos.